Hi everybody, we're really glad to see you all here this evening. We got a great lineup and not so much time, so we're going to have to talk fast. First of all, we want to thank the college for their very generous hosting of this event. Especially thanks go to Eyal Benjamin and Tal Peled. And of course we want to thank our speakers and panelists for sharing their knowledge and expertise. Tal Schwartz from Clicktail, Lior Tal, PG Guard, Eli Sasson, Minicom, Eyal Shamgar, On My Way, and Nimrod Cohen, online pianist. And special thanks to our MC for the evening, Tammy Durst. Tammy, who by the way is also a member of our advisory board. Our program will be divided into two sections tonight. We'll begin with short presentations by Tal, Lior, and Eli. And then Eyal and Nimrod will join them for a panel discussion. And you will all be invited to ask your questions to the panelists. First, I'd like to invite Eyal to say a few words about the Entrepreneur Center here at the college. Eyal?
Okay, a few words about the college. The Tel Aviv Academic College was established almost 20 years ago. We have 4 schools of thought here. This is the Economics and Management building. Within this school, we have one of our program is entrepreneurship program, which is an academic program. We have about 4,000 students in this college. It's a public college, meaning you will pay here whatever you'd pay in a university, but you'll get a much better service. We have quite a growing number of alumni, about 8,000 students. We are ranked pretty high in most of the measurements of quality of our graduates, and we keep on growing. Nevertheless, aside of this academic work, we have the Startup, which is the Entrepreneurship Center. The Entrepreneurship Center is about empowering practical entrepreneurs. It's not a degree program, it's a non-degree program as a matter of fact. And you can join this program even if you have a PhD or no degree at all. The one thing you need is something we'll talk about. Now a question, how many of you know how to make chili con carne? Wow, so little? I thought that after MasterChef this week, everybody would say, I know how to make chili con carne with 37 ingredients. Well, quite a substantial amount of people know how to make chili con carne, but how many of you know how to run a Mexican restaurant? Well, none. Okay, that's about the difference between knowing something very good and being an entrepreneur in that very specific field. So before I'll go a little bit into a program, I'll share with you 5 misconceptions we have found that entrepreneurs have when going to establish a new venture. The first is that most entrepreneur thinks it will take them 3 months to launch their venture. I believe that you'll hear today, and you can check that it will take you years, way more than 3 months to launch a venture. Okay? The fact that accelerators works for 3 months is a fact which fits their measures, but it's not the duration it takes to build up a new venture. The second misconception that entrepreneurs usually have is that the only thing they need is money. I think it is about hundreds, maybe thousands of times that I've heard during interviewing entrepreneurs is, what do you need in order to success? I need $100,000. Or $200,000, or $500,000, or $3 million. The numbers change, but everybody says, the only thing I need is money. Yeah, sure. Okay, so many startups have raised money and have not succeeded, so maybe money is not the only ingredient you need. The third is, I have an MBA, I know everything, and if I have earned my MBA, all this engineering mumbo-jumbo, HTML5, PHP, iOS, I could handle that. I'm an MBA graduate. This is the 5th misconception. The 3rd, sorry. And the 5th is, I'm an engineering graduate. I know how to analyze. I've done the Fourier transformation. I know everything about it. It is very easy to learn all the MBA mumbo-jumbo strategy, marketing. Come on. This is kid stuff. Okay? Neither obviously are right. Building up a new venture is a combination of technological aspects and business management aspects, and both should be implied in the world of new venture and not in the world of corporate, which most of us have our experiences in. And the last misconception is, I'm going to be the exception in the statistics. My startup is going to be different. Because I saw all the YouTube videos, and I read all the Paul Graham blog, and I've seen everything that Guy Kawasaki has to say. Therefore, my startup is going to be different than all the 100 startups that have not did it before. So these are the 5 misconceptions, and I think that most of you would agree that establishing a new venture is quite complicated. Just look at all these terms, and this is a nutshell. By the way, we have a startupist dictionary on our website. With about 60 terms that every entrepreneur has to know before launching his venture. You could drill into and look into it. And they're all in Hebrew, by the way, so it could make life easier for you. You don't have to translate them. Establishing a new venture is a challenge. A new venture, a startup, is as complicated as your knee. And I assume that if you want to treat your knee professionally, and you have to be a surgeon or a doctor or something, the same you have to be with your startup. Okay, you have to act professionally. And if we're looking at the words of Eric Ries, once you move into entrepreneurship, you're not what you have been before. When you want to establish a startup, you mark yourself as an entrepreneur. You're not a doctor, you're not an engineer, you're not a manager, you are an entrepreneur, which is a whole new discipline that you have to look into. And this is what we're at the Startup. We're trying to systematically increase new venture success rates. We're trying to tackle or support all the flaws that are on the way of establishing a new venture, and professionally encourage, support, facilitate startupists on the way. So we had the first intake at the beginning of this year with 11 graduates. The second intake started at mid-2012, and they're about to graduate in a month or so. And the third intake will start running at the end of January. So it's about a month or so from now. The program is we host 18 entrepreneurs in a three parts of the program. One co-working space up here dedicated for the program. We have one-on-one mentorship, so we have a dedicated mentor to each startup. 24 weeks of hard work. Half a year of running your venture, about more than 200 training hours by professionals, and we want your venture launched at the end of this process. The idea is to transform the mindset from an employee mindset to a venture leader. So it's a whole change in concept of what you want to do. These are the three phases. We work on your idea, and only when you refine your idea, when you and your coach decide that you are idea ready, we can move to the design stage, which is being ready for moving to the next stage. And only after that, you will start working about investments, bringing up the management skills, and being what's called investment ready. Meaning, in that stage, you are ready to address address investors from the type that will fit your startup. At the end, you will have a demo day in which you will have the kickoff of your roadshow. Our advisory board is quite long. We have a list of very distinguished entrepreneurs who facilitate the program. Our lecturers and mentors are planned to be or designed to be the top in whatever lecture they do. The candidates we're looking at should have 4 basic skills or characteristics. First, they have to be passionate about what they want to do. They have to be highly committed to their startup. They have to have a professional background of at least 10 years in the industry in which they want to work in. And they have to be in a background of life sciences or any, let's say, high-end profession. Only startups or entrepreneurs who are heading or targeting the international markets should address this program. So we will not accept any type of startup which addresses the local market, but I guess he won't do that. So next week, on the 25th, which is next Tuesday, we're having a Build Your Own Startup workshop. It will be a couple of hours of do's and don't do's on how to launch your venture. You're most welcome to register. You have the links here. or at our website. You can find a way to register to that event, and we are looking forward to see you then. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Okay, now I'd like to say a few words about the sponsor for this event. Anand Agrawal, who's head of an Indian company called Sensible Software. His product, Bootstrap Today, will be of great interest to many of you. Bootstrap Today is the next generation software project management tool. It adds intelligence, integration, and automation to the software development process and makes development teams highly productive. It accelerates software development, enables efficient collaboration, ensuring that the right information gets to the right place at the right time. You can go to their website, bootstraptoday.com, and sign up for a free trial with no credit card required. They have already their first Israeli customer, a startup called Briox, and I've spoken with Itamar Rogel, who is not only very impressed with the product, but he says that the level of service and the responsiveness is among the very highest that they've seen from any SaaS provider, and he says they have worked with quite a few. They happily agreed to become a case study, which you can see on the website. And Itamar, though he was unable to attend tonight, he actually welcomes anyone interested to call him or email him to hear about how Briox is using Bootstrap today. And we have here his phone number and Gmail account. And here is a direct quote from Itamar about our experience with Bootstrap today. I can say that we've done an extensive survey of the project management tools out there, including the most well-known names and the shiniest ones, and even have used one of these for a while. However, when it comes to the level of detail and specialization that hardcore software project management requires, the shiny UX and big name just didn't cut it. You need strong issue management, project management, awareness of your software components, a good way to work with milestones, ability to work with files in a way that makes sense for a software development management system, a way to sensibly share knowledge, and more and more. And honestly, he says, these were things we assumed we'd find in the big name systems, but we did not, to our surprise. It seems most of the other offerings in the market aim more to small shops, collaboration with less software-centric orientation, or a heaviness that tries to tie you to the certain workflow and way of doing things instead of adapting to you. Bootstrap today, he says, gives us the power we need without getting in our way. Add world-class support we've received from Anand and the team, and a great price, and the value is unbeatable. We have a short video.
So you're building software, is it? Your software team, your QA team, and your customer service team are working hard to build an exceptional product. However, during the course of continuous building, testing, debugging, your team is generating pretty valuable data. We call this your development process data. The problem is that this data is lying in silos, which makes it really difficult to apply intelligence to. What if someone could integrate all your process data into a singular location? What if someone could recommend the fastest way to resolve a ticket with all the project management facilities already built in? Sounds silly? That's Bootstrap today. It's a project manager, it's a version manager, it's a test case manager, it's a ticket tracker, and it's got all your data in a single database. Which means you can now make your existing data work harder and provide the right answer to the right team member at the right time. With Bootstrap today, when a bug comes marching in, squashing it is that much easier. That is because a ticket is automatically assigned to someone who's handled a similar ticket before. And that is because all your development process data is tightly integrated. Bootstrap today will show you all the source files that were modified to resolve a ticket. It will throw up references to any earlier bugs that were similar to this one. Because Bootstrap today applies intelligence over integrated data, the real cause of the bug can be traced much more easily. Man, that's a lot of minutes to save, innit? And if you're already in the middle of it, you can just use the REST API to integrate Bootstrap today with your existing development ecosystem. Don't matter if you're a one-man team or a 100-man team, Bootstrap today will make your process data intelligent. And it's this intelligence that makes your software development oh so much better. Give Bootstrap today a run. Sign up for free in 30 seconds and no credit card required.
Now, about Israel Startup Network, we have a few announcements. First of all, this Thursday, the 20th at 6 p.m. Israel time, Sarmana Mitra's free strategy roundtable is dedicated to Israeli startups. And you're welcome to pitch to her. She's one of the foremost strategy consultants in Silicon Valley. And she also happens to be one of the leading experts in bootstrapping. So you're welcome to pitch to her or just to attend. Definitely worth your time. Okay, secondly, we have a scholarship program, a contest going on now, where you can win a scholarship to the 1 Million by 1 Million virtual global incubator, valued at $1,000. And this is one of the best entrepreneur programs on the planet, we think. Not as good as yours, of course, Eyal. But we're talking... We're not virtual, exactly. Okay. So we highly recommend this program. There are 12 scholarships that are going to be awarded from among the 20 finalists. And we certainly hope that we're going to see some Israelis among the winners. The program includes mentorship for a year, a curriculum based on the tribal knowledge of Silicon Valley. Sarmana personally, so far, has interviewed over 600 successful startups in Silicon Valley. So this is information that is not available anywhere else. And in addition to the curriculum, you've got ongoing mentorship for a year, you've got introductions to potential customers, partners, and investors, and PR coverage. So please go to the site and check it out, and you've still got until the 20th to register for this. Okay, a lot of you are looking for publicity. We've got a couple of ways that we can help you. First of all, if you want to be tweeted, send me your tweets. 123 characters, including spaces. If you have a problem writing out the tweet, send it to me with the information and your URL. You don't need to have a Twitter account to be tweeted about. And my tweets are being retweeted by my team in the States, many of whom have over 20,000 followers. So you get a lot of bang for the buck if you'll send me your tweets. And next, if you need publicity and you'd like to be written about, we're starting once again to write about our startup members. So send us the information or ask me and I'll send you the questionnaire. And again, we will post this on the Israel Startup Network blog and it will be tweeted by my tweet team. So you'll get a lot of people coming to read about your company. So please just send me an email and ask for the questionnaire. And we have volunteer writers and we're always looking for more volunteer writers. So anybody out there, please help us because we have lots of startups and lots of great stories, but we don't have a lot of time. So please help us out with this. Okay, and now I would like to introduce Tommy Durst, who, as I said, is a member of our advisory board. But she's also an expert in international business development. She currently represents Xera Partners, a global life sciences commercialization and business development firm in Israel. She has held senior positions in NI Medical, Osem Nestle, Intel Corporation, and was the executive director of the New England Israel Business Council, headquartered in Boston. Tammy has won several awards for cost saving and business development. She holds a BA in Business and Social Studies from the Hebrew University and an MBA from Tel Aviv University. Take it away, Tommy.
It's great being here with such a great audience and such an important topic that we have today. So we are looking forward to hearing how our panelists are doing that actually and their stories and their experience. And then you'll all have a chance to ask questions. So first I'd like to introduce Dr. Tal Schwartz, Chairman and CEO of ClickTail. Tal founded ClickTail with Ali Kavilevich in 2006. ClickTail has grown from a groundbreaking idea into the worldwide leader of customer experience analytics, serving tens of thousands of customers from around the globe. For its revolutionary service, ClickTail has been lauded as one of Red Herring's top 100 most promising companies in Europe, Middle East, and Africa in 2008, as well as one of the 15 hottest Israeli internet companies by the California Israel Chamber of Commerce. Throughout his career, Tal has also been committed to using technology to produce positive social change. In 2004, he co-founded the Bronica Entrepreneurship and Innovation Center at the Technion, as well as the Technion Entrepreneurship Club, which helps student-based technology startups become successful. In 2000, he founded Expand Beyond Corporation, which developed software that allowed IT professionals the freedom to work wirelessly, which was later acquired by Semitis Corporation. So Tal has also been a lecturer and visiting professor at numerous universities. I won't give you the long list, but it's a very impressive long list. You're all invited to look at his bio on the web. So take it away, Tal.
All right, so I only have 15 minutes, so I'll give you kind of a quick few stories. One story maybe, my story. Okay, so I actually have ClickTel as my second startup. As you heard, I had the first startup in the States. I lived in the States for about 20 years. And my first startup was the opposite of Bootstrap. I raised, I guess it was close to $20 million for it. I raised like an angel round. It was almost $2 million in the Series A and the Series B. I did all the things that you read about. That startup didn't work so well. So we did sell it, but we sold it for a lot less than $20 million. So as you know, the VCs take their money first, so not much is left for the entrepreneurs. So that was the first one, and the second one we did more like a bootstrap. So the first 2 years or so, we were a true bootstrap, which means we were self-funded. We put our own money into the startup. It was myself and my co-founder, and I'll tell you about the 3 things you have to get right in your startup to be successful. Now this is true for every startup, but it's even more so for Bootstrap. Because Bootstrap, you really don't have a lot of money or a lot of funding. It's you're self-funding it, right? So you have to get the 3 things right. Product right, your marketing, and your sales. That's the only 3 things. It sounds really easy, but it's not so easy. So today, ClickTel is a company that has, we're selling now more than $10 million a year. We have over 110 employees, growing very quickly at about 50% or so, or more than 50% year over year. Customers all over the world, over 2,000 paying customers, and basically what we do, we help websites figure out what customers are doing on the site so they can become better sites. So we help find out where people leave a site, where there are problems in converting them, and so on. And I'll start with the story early on. So in early 2006, Arik showed me what was, you can call it an alpha version of ClickTel. It works a lot like other web analytics. You put a little bit of JavaScript on the pages you want to record, and as a customer, what you end up getting, you come in and you see playback of visitor sessions. So it's as if you're sitting next to a visitor, seeing exactly where they move their mouse, what they click on, everything like that. And so initially, when you're talking about product, well, what you need is first you need to have something called an MVP, a minimum viable product. You have to make sure you come out to the market with something that gives enough value so people will buy it, but doesn't cost so much to develop so that you can do it on your own, or almost on your own. So to get the first product done, we basically Arik did maybe 80 or 90% of it on his own. And we filled the rest of it with consultants. So back then there weren't as many as today, but we had Red Decoder and there's Odesk and things like that, and there's a lot more today. But essentially we filled out a few of the missing pieces in the product with his outsourced services. And we were able to get to an alpha and later on a beta. So the way it worked is by June 2006 or so, we were ready to go roll out, and that's, when I say roll out, we were ready to go into beta. And going to beta, we realized we weren't ready to start selling the product, but we were ready to bring people in so we can get them using it. And we wanted to do a beta. So so that's where my role comes in. I was the product and the marketing and sales side of the business. And I got in touch with TechCrunch and got them to write about us. And at the time it was, actually it still is very unique and new. And we got written up, and TechCrunch was still small. You could say online magazine back then, 3 or 4 stories maybe a day or a week. So when they wrote about us, we got a lot of traffic, thousands of visitors. And with my friends from the Entrepreneurship Club at Caltech, we actually built a landing page where we would convert them to leads. So we built this nice site. I actually designed the page, and they built it for us. So you kind of have to do it all on your own when you're a bootstrap, right? No one else is going to do it for you, and you don't want to do as much of it on your own because you can't afford to hire other people to do it. So one of the first lessons out of this is that when you found a company as a bootstrap, you want to make sure you cover as many of the bases as possible, and ideally you want to cover almost all of them. So you want to cover the product side and the marketing side, and also whatever you decide to do in sales, you want to make sure you cover that as well. So we started in 2006. It was, we got rid of the TechCrunch, all this traffic came our way, and we were basically in closed beta for about a year. And during this time, we continuously improved the product. I got us written up in different bloggers, contacting them who did what's called guerrilla marketing. So guerrilla marketing, again, as a bootstrap, is something you need to do, which means you need to contact different different online publications and different bloggers in your specific area to get them to write about you. And they love to do it. So there's a lot of tricks in doing it well. One of the best ways to do it, obviously, is if you have a sexy product that looks good, take a lot of pictures of it and send them that, and actually prepare an article for them as much as you can. So when they get it, it's not a lot of work. They can cut and paste or rewrite some of what you wrote. So you want to make it really easy for them. And that's a big important piece of it. And then when it came time to start selling, which was around the middle of 2007, the product was ready enough. We went on a model that's called the freemium. And freemium is actually a very good model for startups, because for bootstraps especially. Because a freemium means you have something for free, and we started with a free beta, but then you continue. You tell people, look, you can continue using the free product. It's limited. It has some capability. You'll get value from it. But there's also a premium product where you get a lot more. Okay? And the premium costs money, and that's really how you found yourself. The nice thing about the freemium model is that the free part is like, you can think of it as viral marketing, because people tell one another, they write about, they say, oh yeah, you can start with the free, it doesn't cost anything, please try it out. And your challenge as an entrepreneur is to convert as many of those free subscribers to paid, okay? And the more you make the product compelling, you want to make it good enough for people to buy, to try out for free, and also make it compelling enough for them to upgrade to the paid. So it's a fine balance of what you do. And we had to wait so the product was broad enough so we can offer enough things to actually get people to upgrade to the paid subscription. And in our case, it had to do with the number of paid views you would get, and some of the additional features, heat maps and other things that we added on with time. So visualizations were really beautiful. So all those things really made the product very attractive and helped us really bootstrap the business forward. Over the years, so I'll jump a little bit around, but over the years, we didn't raise a lot of money. We raised less than $1 million, but the funding really for the company came from the customers. So most of the funding all the way along has really been the customers funding our growth and enabling us to really build the company here. And my philosophy is, if you're building a bootstrap, you have to make sure your number one challenge is to get to break even, to get to the point where you can cover your costs. And from there you can scale. Either at that point you can decide whether to scale your business on your own with customers scaling your business, or fundraise from different sources to accelerate the growth even more. Okay, that's really, it's time up, is that a signal? Basically, you want to get to break even. We got to break even in February 2009. We were about 8 employees, so at that point we covered our costs. And so for over 3 years now we're cash flow positive, you can say, and growing the business. We're from 8 employees in 2009 to now over 110, and revenue growing significantly. So that's something we did basically purely with customers, basically customers paying us. So the trick is to build a model where the customers pay you as much as possible up front. That's one of the things we figured out along the way, because in our business it's a subscription model. And its standard is monthly subscription. And one thing we realized, let's make longer term subscriptions. Let's get people to pay us for 3 months, 6 months, a year ahead of time. That's great. And the more we shifted, the more we got customers to pay us for a long period of time, the better it was for us as a bootstrap, because we got the money paid up front and we can leverage that to build a business. So you have to figure out how to do that. In a sense, our customers funded our business and helped us grow. Now, that's one thing you need to figure out. The other thing you need to figure out is how to get people, because it's a small startup. I mean, even when we started, it was me and Arik, and then we hired 4 developers, and then we hired a few more. But really, you can't afford to have a sales force. And so you have to, so the sales piece here, in our case, was not just marketing, it was a freemium, but also it was a self-service. So people would come to the site, they would see the different types of plans, and there you have to, I highly recommend you read Dan Ariely's book, because it will help you figure out how to psychologically. Now we did this before I read those books, but I guess I read a little bit about behavioral. I knew a little bit about behavioral finance and things like that. So we priced the packages, so we caused people to kind of always pick the middle package. Okay, because people always go for the cheapest thing or for free, and our goal was to get them to buy the middle one. So we played with the features and what we gave them. So eventually they'd buy the silver. There was always a bronze. There was always something like bronze, silver, gold, and things like that. Actually, I can talk a lot about pricing and how to find the right pricing model, because you go through a lot of iterations with the marketplace to figure out what's the right thing to do. So when we started by selling to the really long tail of the market. We sold for $19, $49, and $99. And what we found was it was like a U-curve demand curve. Basically, you had a lot of people buying at $19 and a bunch of people buying at $99. And when I spoke to them, I figured out that we were probably underpriced. Well, we could charge a lot more. People were paying $99. Some of them were really large companies, so they could afford a lot more than $99. They just took the most expensive one. So the first thing we did is we split the pricing into two. We said, well, we'll have the personal pricing. It was below $99. It was actually $9, $29 and $49 or something like that. Then we had the business pricing, which was $99 and higher, up to $1,000. And we let that run for a little while. And at some point, we realized that almost all the money was coming from the business side. There was hardly any money coming from the personal side, because people there were buying for $9. And I realized that, and I also realized that a lot of people buying the personal business could afford the more expensive plans. So we made a decision, and we had a big argument about this, and I was really pushing for it, and I'm glad I did. It was basically to cut off the personal pricing, and we had a big argument because people said, "What about all those people who can only pay $49 and $90? We're going to lose all those customers." And I said, "Trust me, we'll lose some customers. That's true, but even one out of two will buy for $99." Will more than make up for it in revenue, and we did. We ended up actually making a lot of money by doing that move. And the other thing, and we did a bunch of things like that. Over time, prices went up, and the pricing ended up being last pricing we had on our website was actually $99, $290, and $990. And one of the things we realized actually is that the more we talked to our customers, the more we had inside salespeople, the more we can actually generate higher price. We can sell them higher plans. We can also get them to buy for a longer period of time. And we can also manage those accounts. We can actually have account management and actually educate them better on how to use the product. So it worked really well. And the next intersection actually happened just a few months ago when we decided to actually remove the online pricing altogether and move everything to an inside sales force. But you can only do that once you're in scale. Once you have enough employees, you have an inside sales team. Today I have more than 20 people inside here in Matgan, who all they do is sales, okay? All they do is on the phone all the time making sales. So that's something that, when you're a bootstrap, you can't afford to do it. You have to go on the model of selling through the web, which is self-service, and that's the way you work it. That's the best channel. So we did that for about 5 years, and now we're pure inside sales. Also, over that period of time, around 2010, we started to sell to enterprises, which is a whole different story. So it's one thing selling to small, medium businesses, SMBs, and it's a whole other thing selling to enterprises where you have, their prices are much higher. You can sell them for, we've sold for as much as $300,000 a year. So our range for enterprises is anywhere from $50K a year to $300K a year, but it's a completely different sales process. I don't recommend going for the enterprise route. If you're a bootstrap business, I think it's a really hard business to do as a bootstrap, because you need to have the runway as a business to be able to survive and self-fund during that time that you're getting those big companies to make a decision to buy you. Not only that, when they look at you and say, well, how big are you? How many people? Whatever. They're very reluctant to buy from a bootstrap business because you don't have the capacity, you don't have the logos, you don't have the history. Plus, you probably don't have the product that they need, because the product they need is much broader than what a small, medium business needs, or maybe even a consumer might need. So I don't recommend going the enterprise off the bat. It's something you can go into later on once you've proven that you give value and your business has value. Unless you raise money. I mean, if you decide to go to the enterprise route, then you could do it as off the bat, but then you need to raise probably millions of dollars to be able to fund that type of endeavor. Because I can tell you that there are many enterprises that have done studies where they look at the amount of money raised for different size businesses, and I think the average is on the order of $40 million typically to get to a self-sustaining enterprise business. it's a lot of money. And even in Israel, there are several companies who do pure enterprise sales, and they've raised tens of millions of dollars to get there. So it's a difficult business to do as a bootstrap. And I suggest you go the route of kind of going with SMB, self-service, go with small ones, and slowly build that up. If we're talking about software. Obviously, there's many other types of businesses you guys could try to do. But the most important thing is to make sure that you map your distance to break even, okay? Map how you get from here to break even. What do you need to do on the product, on marketing, on sales? How much money do you need to get there? And a break even is fine even if you're one person. It's okay to be a startup, one person, cover your costs, and start building from there. That's perfectly okay. You don't have to build a business that's like ClickTel, that's $10 million in revenue or more, and growing to $100 million. Doesn't have to be your business. You could be a perfectly fine business, 1 or 2 or 3 people making good living, and that's great. You just have to decide what it is you're doing, the niche you're specifically going after, and get to break even. As soon as you're there, you're home free. You can keep growing your business or raise money or do anything you want. Okay, so that's my advice.
Thank you, Todd, and we'll have opportunity to ask questions during the panel. Second, I would like to introduce Lior Tal from PG Guard. Lior has worked with the startups all his life. He started as product manager at Security 7 that was acquired by Computer Associates. Then he provided business development services to a number of startups such as Intercept, which was acquired by McAfee, Whale Communications, acquired by Microsoft. He co-founded Guardium, acquired by IBM, and Insightex, which was acquired by McAfee. Started 2 bootstrapping projects, one Slick and Access that was not successful, and now building PG Guard, an advanced online service for safeguarding children on Facebook.
Great. So let me just talk shortly about what I did in startups, the way I see things, and then a couple of advices that I thought would be very helpful to someone who's going to start his own business, regardless whether that's a bootstrap or not, but especially if that's a bootstrap. I will go through a couple of things that I think are key when you start your own company. And I think that many people, when they want to start a technology startup, they're looking for an exit. They're looking to do something very nice, something that will compensate for all the time and things like that, especially if they work right now as an employee of a big company. And they see the managers or the founders or something like that, they're selling the company, they're making a lot of money off stocks, and they want to do the same for themselves. And it's not a big thing, it's not a bad thing. I think it's very good, it's very nice, but there's a lot of commitment. It's not easy to start your own company. You have to be kind of, I think, a special character for something like this in terms of the way you build or the way your life is organized and so forth in order to do something like this. So first of all, in terms of commitment, I think building your own company or your own business doesn't have to be a startup, a technology startup. Takes a lot of commitment. I've seen over the years so many people, they came and said, I have a great idea, I want to do this or I want to do that, but they never took the step of taking the commitment and I don't know if they have to, but leave their own day job and start something and start even during their day job, work on weekends and do something about it. And 5 years later, I still met them and they have the same great idea that will never happen. So I think that's one thing. The other thing is in terms of what I call your partners. Most of the time, I think that especially those who start a company with bootstrapping, exactly like Tal said, you need a business partner on one side and a technical partner on the other side. If that doesn't happen, you usually see someone who's hiring the other side. But it's really important, first of all, to get the expectations right. If one of the partners is willing to quit their day job and the others doesn't, and they're not really involved in the process of getting the company started, usually, from my experience, it's not going to happen. You have to have the commitment, you have to have the partners who are seeing things exactly the way you see things in order to make it happen. The other thing that always, not always, but many times happen, is that you see partners that start a company, and even before they get funded, before something happens, one of them quit, and what's happening then? whether they stay on board of the company, part of the shares are theirs or not, and so on. All of these things are really important to resolve early on. The other thing that I think is key is cost. It's like they say in real estate, location, location, location. Especially when you bootstrap, it's all about costs. And like my partners here, they share the same stories. You have to find ways. You have to think out of the box in terms of how to finance the things that you want to do. In our company, in PG Guard, we started about 18 months ago for a couple of partners. I was lucky to have a partner who's one of the world leaders in the technology, in artificial intelligence technology, that developed the technology, the algorithm, and so forth. But when we needed a development force that will build an application and so forth, if we had to build all of that here in Israel, for example, and hire engineers and so on, not that it's a bad thing, but it's very expensive. You can find ways today to reduce this cost by at least 80% if you work, in other places. And also you have to think about, your commitment. How long can you promise someone a work or, a paycheck and so on. And one of the things that you will see when you start your own companies, there are many ways to cut costs. You can work with partners, even friends. I'm going to ask some help from Tal. He's a friend. He will do it for free. And vice versa. You can always find friends that will help you. And you can always find web services, online services. I'm not sure if you're familiar with things like Fiverr or Elance or Odesk and things like that, where you can buy really cheap services for things that, if you go to a regular company, to a standard company or provider, that they will take 5 to 10 times more what you would pay on those services. The other thing, if you'd like to find people who are really experts, in your field, and you want to kind of have them committed to your business, the way of options and all of that is really viable. You can sell or give some options or stocks in your company. And the only thing in that respect is you have to sell your dream. You have to really convince them that you believe in that, and this is going to be a really great opportunity. And it's amazing the people and the type of experts and professionals you'll be able to get. We talked about a bit about the founders issue. Legal is very important. I think most of you are working for another company right now. If you're thinking about starting your own company, there are always legal issues there. Whether your patents or ideas or things like that, whether they really belong to you or belong to your previous company. Before you start doing anything, consult with a legal lawyer or someone who can help you with that, to make sure that you're not starting a company and then your previous employer comes and take all your company, all your stocks and so forth. It happened more than once, even here in Israel. Founders agreement. It sounds like really, when you start, like marriage, when you start, everyone's happy and it's really, we don't need an agreement and everything's fine. But it's really important to have things in place. Who's going to get what, who's committed to do what, what's the shares, what's the profit, how it's going to split, who makes the decision, and so on. It's really important going forward, because when things are not working very well, that's where you need something like this in place. And also the issue of patents. I think it's really important. There are ways today, again, filing patents in a very cheap way, very low-cost way. Not going through, the big offices, that could cost, $50,000 to file a patent. There are ways to do it in a much lower cost. One of the most important things to every company, we talked about developing and times it takes and so on, customers. It's nothing like having a paying customer. It's really amazing to get money in the bank, revenue stream starting. It's really nice. Building something that was nothing before, and now it's a real product that people are paying for. That's amazing. So getting customers, getting partners, getting opinion leaders, and you can do that in very, very low cost. Again, I'm talking about cost because that's the essence. Whoever thinks about building a company, if you think about the number of people, even if you think about 3 people, gross cost of a person, an engineer here in Israel, in the US would be at least $10,000. Most people cannot afford to start financing something like this on their own. So you have to think about how you do it in other ways. And again, in that respect, customers and partners and so forth, one of the things that I found to be very helpful is your network. There was a Red Herring magazine a couple of years ago for technology in the US, one of the best magazines, and one of the issues was headline networking or not working. It's all about the people the friends you have in different companies, in different capacities, different expertise. If you know many people and you have good relationship with them, you can get so much for your startup, without paying anything. That's why, in terms of pressure, I think people who start their own company, whether that's a bootstrap or even they want to start something, and they start going to VCs. That's the most frustrating process in the world, I think. It's absolutely amazing what you get there. But the process of building a startup, even before your finance and even after that, it's really a lot of pressure. So you have, I think, everyone needs to, first of all, be prepared for something like this and find ways, either through partners or your spouse or sport or whatever, but ease the pressure. It's really a lot of pressure. There's no, when you look back right now, when you work for a company and you look back, you have your boss, you have your boss's boss, and someone is there to make decision. When it's your own company, there's no one there. It's all about you. Every decision that needs to be taken, a meaningful decision for the company, it's all about you, and you have to bear all the consequences. It's all up to you. Couple of things that I learned while working with a startup in this arena of startups. I never worked, by the way, for a big company. I don't know, what it's like. I have no idea. But it's really amazing, to get an idea that you have or someone else has, and you partner in order to create that product or service or whatever, and suddenly there's a service and people are really evaluating that and paying for that. That's an amazing feeling, that's an amazing accomplishment. The other thing is learn from your mistakes. You don't have a lot of money, especially if you're bootstrapping. You have to consult with lots of people. But be careful, by the way, how many people you consult with. Like you say that if there are 10 Jews in the room, you will get 11 opinions. So watch it, take someone who you trust, someone who's expert in the subject, and make a decision. And there's always the risk. People are afraid to leave their work, and it's their day job and it's paying and so forth. I think that good people will always find work. If you're an engineer for Intel or for I don't know, for Amdocs or something, and you're good at what you do, even if you live and you take 6 months off and then you start to find a job again, you will find a work. If you're a good programmer, it's not a big deal. You will get perhaps paid a bit less. But starting something, if you have a good idea and if you have a way to do it, it's something that doesn't happen every day. Good ideas, good startups, or even aligning all the resources that you need is not something that happens every day. So, I'm done.
I'd like to introduce Eli's son from Minicom. Eli founded Minicom in 1988 as his first business venture and led the company as CEO since then until it was acquired by Triplight, a U.S. private company, in April 2012. The company, based in Jerusalem, a leading vendor of remote access management solutions for data center, developed under his leadership from a bootstrapping startup into a multinational high-tech company with sales over $25 million. During his tenure, he dealt with all aspects and challenges of a growing technology company in dynamic markets. Today, he is using his experience to help CEOs as a board member and as a consultant to design and execute their business strategy.
So, as Tavi introduced me, I graduated the MBA in Tel Aviv 25 years ago, and then I met a friend, engineer, that got a small project from a company called Olivetti, which used to be a big company at that time, and they needed to extend keyboard and mouse, sorry, keyboard and screen from the computer for a teller application in banks. And by networking, they came to this friend, and he got the project, and he had no idea what to do with it. And remember, this was the time that startup wasn't even a known word. There was no notion of doing things this way. But we decided that we'll do that. And we did it successfully, and we made a product that's a hardware product. And then we thought what we can do with it. So first of all, we realized that we could sell the same product to a wider market, but we also tried to analyze what can be done with this technology. Now, at the time, that I was in the university, that was the beginning of the PC in the university, believe it or not. And I was an assistant in Tel Aviv University. And the way that it worked was that there was the professor was here, the student sat with the PCs around the class, and the assistants were at the back of the classroom looking at the screens and go to the students and help them if they needed help. And the instructor had a huge keyboard layout here, and he showed where the student should take the key. And I said, you know what, we can use the same technology of switching the screen and the keyboard to make a tool for classrooms. And we invented a product that's called Classroom. This is a product that the instructor could use to things that you today are natural for you and you see it everywhere by software. He could demonstrate his or her screen to the entire classroom, or take a screen from the student and show it to the entire class, darken the screen in order to get the attention, take control on the keyboard, etc. And it took us about 8 months or a year to make it a product. At the same time, we started selling the other product, the extender, to the market, and it became a very, very successful product. Now, of course, we needed some funding to go and make production of first batches and use some other engineers' help, etc. We needed some money. I went to the first F. You know the triple F?
Yeah.
Friends, family, and fools, like a soft version of it, yes. So we, on this order, we went to the second F, and I raised $60,000 from family. And we had a partner within the company. The beginning was, of course, very difficult. We had an excellent idea about the product. We had no expertise, and we were not up to date with what's going on in the market and with the technology. While we had a very strong feel and sense of what the customer needs, we didn't realize that the market is changing at the same days that we were developing the product. Once we had product, we had customers that wanted the product, but at the same time, overnight, technology changed. The PC became the PS2, for those of you who remember that. Now, for most people, it didn't make a big difference. But for us, it was a huge difference because the technology of the screen changed from digital to analog technology, and the keyboard and mouse changed their protocols dramatically, and also their electronics. So we had a product we had or an idea of or concept of the product. We already had customers, but suddenly we didn't have the product to sell. And that took us another 9 months of a rally that we worked, days and night until we came to the point that we had a product to sell again. At that time, there was a magazine that was very popular in the industry, which is called Byte. And we sent a kind of a product release to Byte, hoping that they will publish it. And they did. And once they did it, we got huge interest from all over the world. For us as a small company based in Jerusalem. And very fast we got some first large orders, which we had to fulfill. And again, we had many challenges of how to do that. We had in our hand an LC of $100,000. We went to the bank, we said, listen, we have the orders, we have the LCs, and we got some credit against these orders, and we started rolling the business. And this way we grew our business from some $100,000 to $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, and $5 million of sales, especially mostly in the area of the education and the CBT. But we came to a place where we felt that there is a glass ceiling to what we're doing for many reasons. One of them is that the educational market is a very tough market. The technology education market is a very tough market to deal with, and we started to feel a pressure in the market from the software direction, where more and more applications could do some of the things that we did in software. And we came into a milestone, into a junction that we had to decide what we are going to do. And we analyzed we identified two directions that we could take. One was to bring a new technology to the market where we work, which means that we could move our business into the software business, doing the same thing in software and develop our business into what was called at that days the distance learning market, or we could use the same technology in a different market. And we realized that there is a market that is adjacent to our market that uses the same technology and is probably much bigger than the market where we operated. And that was the IT market, the niche in the IT market that was called KVM, or keyboard, video, and mouse, which means that in the data center you switch between many servers into one console. And we decided to go that direction, and as a matter of fact, we reinvented and restarted the company again with a big challenge of phase out from one market and phasing into another market that we didn't know before. That was a painful process again, but it was successful for us. And one of the reasons why it was successful was that we took some special expertise that we had in one market and we brought it to another market, and we made different products than the products that were done at the other market. And one of the differences that we had from our bigger competitors that were already a few years in that market was that while they worked always in a very concentrated environment, we worked in a distributed environment of the classroom. And we took the same topology of the classroom and we brought it into a rack in the data center, using a Cat5 cable to connect between the different servers. And that was a great timing because at the same time the pizza servers came to the market. And the server manufacturers tried to bring 30 and 40 servers into one rack. And that gave us a great advantage. And shortly after we got into this market and came out with the first and second product, we signed an OEM deal with Compaq, and we started selling our products under the name of Compaq. Trying to make a long story short, technology changed again, and then there was already, it started, the remote control world over the internet and over the network became more and more feasible, and we wanted to try. I say we, but by the way, at that time, my partner already left the company, and we became a company of, I think at that time we were about 100 people. We tried to develop ourselves a remote access product for the data center that allows the administrator accessing the servers from remote. We realized that this is that was a too much, I would say, a challenge for us. And after working for some time with another company as OEM, we decided to acquire an Israeli startup that had the same technology. We acquired that startup, and shortly after the acquisition, Intel Capital came to us and said that they are interested in investing in our company. They told us that they looked at this startup for a long time. They thought that they have good technology, but they didn't have the right structure and management. And now that they are under our umbrella, it became interesting for them. And then we got an investment from Intel Capital, which helped us to go and grow the business. I will shorten the story. A few months ago, the company has been acquired by one of our customers, our second largest customer from the US. Now, if I can give one or two tips from this long journey that is relevant to bootstrapping, I would say that when you work in a mode of bootstrapping, sometimes you feel that maybe you had another way of doing it, and the other way could be easier, or maybe you have to you compromise many things because you went this way and you didn't go the other way. And the one thing that I can tell you is being in both sides and seeing the VC world, and I saw it in other occasions that I didn't mention in this story. First of all, you don't miss much if you don't work with the VCs. Second, I think that there is a lot of value, or even a chance to succeed when you do things in a balanced way, and from day one you have to balance between your resources to your operations and to your costs. Because as Tal and Lior mentioned it before, that becomes something that accompanies you 24/7. And I can tell you if there people are looking for the magic. Okay. So I'll say only two words: cash flow. Cash flow becomes a very significant element in everything that you're doing, and you take it every day in your consideration. And very fast you learn that you have to have a healthy cash flow. Otherwise, you just cannot survive.
Thank you, Eli. And I'll introduce our two additional panelists, and then we can start with some questions. And if you have questions from the audience, please raise your hand. Eyal Shamgal from On My Way. Eyal founded On My Way, a venture in the realm of geomarketing. Their first stage beta product has gained over 130,000 downloads in Israel. Some major clients as Cal and IsraelStartupNetwork credit card companies. They have also established a profound cooperation with Telmaps, serving their products in Israel with find relevant offers in local businesses when they use location-based mobile applications such as Waze, Foursquare, Transmate, and more. It also helps retailers grow by getting their promotions to nearby, highly targeted customers. Till now, they developed a branded application for iPhone and Android and are working on a plugin to integrate into other apps. Nimrod Cohen from Online Pianist. Nimrod is a BA graduate of the International Government Program at the Interdisciplinary Center in Herzliya, class of 2010. Following a childhood dream to learn to play music, he has created, with his partner, Online Pianist, a one-of-a-kind animated piano learning application that enables its user to fully control their learning experience without the need of a piano teacher. In the last 2.5 years, he has served as the company's CEO. As a low-budget and resources company, their main goal was to find creative marketing techniques known as guerrilla marketing to reach their target audience while establishing a strong relationship with their community. By doing so, they managed to transform users to marketing agents and advocates of their product. Within 2.5 years and without investing money on hardcore marketing, Online Pianist attracted 6 million unique visitors and created a loyal community of 600,000 registered members. So, Nimrod, I'd like to start with you. So you had a great idea, and I can't wait to go home and set up my tester's piano learning application. And you achieved success with your idea, and you chose not to raise money or delay raising money of funds. You chose to actually go lean. Is it something that was forced on you? How do you choose? How do you know that you could have to go lean?
I would say that it was a retrospective choice. I mean, we didn't decide from the beginning to go bootstrapping. We actually didn't know what bootstrapping is when we created the website. But I would say that in today's social environment, it is much easier to create a bootstrapping company because of Facebook and YouTube and all kinds of social networks. It's true that not everyone has the luxury to choose whether to go bootstrap or to be as a classic startup and to raise money. But I think that especially B2C products, they have big advantage in today's world. And you should take advantage of it. That's it basically.
Okay, so my second question is to Eyal from On My Way. Eyal, how by understanding the target audience and the business model can you understand if the project is a bootstrapping project?
First of all, hello everybody. I think it's. I think that first of all, in order to succeed, the first rule to succeed, especially in a bootstrap, if you decide to go bootstrap, to analyze your audience, because it really depends. It's really a major factor if you can succeed with very limited resources or not. I mean, if your audience is like a pianist, an online pianist, and your clients are the end users, you have a really great tools like all the social networks and so on to market your product. But if you see that you're building, you're building like Office 2, then the chances to succeed are very minor. The chances that the company will adopt your product when you are two entrepreneurs building it are very low. So I would say that as a rule of thumb, that bootstrapping is, and I think it's trivial. It's more for consumer products and less than enterprise products.
Thanks. So Lior mentioned the complications of and the high cost of legal advice, but the complications of not having good legal advice. So I would like to ask all of you about the founders agreement. How do you go about having a solid founders agreement without maintaining and high costs in legal costs? Can any of you give us an example?
Sure. I can do it. So when we started, we actually got a lawyer who agreed to work with us for no fee. He took a little bit of equity and basically agreed to work with us until we got funding, some significant funding. And so we had a lawyer basically working with us for about 1.5 years without getting paid. And that helped us a lot. Do you want to give your example?
I don't think there's anyone in this room who doesn't have a lawyer friend. They can always assist you, and you can find, an initial version of a founder agreement online and make some adjustment, and that should be fine, I think, as a first agreement.
I think that more than that, most of you probably know someone that actually did it before in the startup industry. I mean, Israel is the second largest startup industry in the world, and you have a bunch of great people. I'm saying it from my experience that you buy them a cup of coffee and they will give you a free advice, and half an hour with them worth you couple of months of actual experiencing. And I highly recommend to just approach people like us. I drink decaf, guys, and just ask questions. I mean, people are here to help you, and you can find some great people on the way that are willing to help. Use them.
Yes, Kelsey.
About using freebie advice as a professional. What would you estimate would be the scale of equity we have to give them? A lawyer, a patent attorney, whatever.
I think it depends on the. I mean, if it's free advice, then it's free, right? You don't pay any equity for that.
Well, I'd be very aware of free advices,
So when we started, we basically interviewed. I think must have been 8 or 10 different attorneys before we found one that we liked and also was willing to give us a break on the fees. So it took a while, but each lawyer is different, and probably depends what stage you get. If you're really early stage, then it might cost you 2 or 3 percentage points. It depends on how much work it is. But that's just a rule of thumb. I mean, more than that would be too much, I think, and less than that, they might not have enough of an incentive to help you, especially if it's really early on. Later on, of course, theoretically, they're counting on the fact that you're not going to be a bootstrap, that you'll probably raise some money so you can pay them. Because if you're a bootstrap, I mean, it might take a little longer for them to get there to see any kind of money. It just takes longer with bootstrap. And most of the quotes we got were like in the $8 to $12 or more $1,000 for a full patent application. And he ended up doing it for about $5K, about half price, and did a very good job. And but that was after we looked really hard to find someone like that.
I would say about giving equity. It's very much up to you. And if you're making a program and you decide that you sharing equity as you do with the options with the professionals, then you can come and say, that's my plan and that's what I allocated to that, they will respect it. On the other hand, with the patent lawyers, by the way, I think it's like doing underinsurance if you don't do it the right way. So do it the right way, pay them money, try to pay less, but pay the money, because if you did the patent and you didn't do it right, it costs.
My question is regarding Bootstrap B2C venture. I agree that costs went down and in terms of development and in terms of marketing. But on the other hand, because of that, many startups are trying to be there, and there is big noise there. One of the things that I couldn't find a way to reduce, and actually costs are going upper, is in terms of branding and design. And so anyone here or in the panel or in here maybe can give me an answer.
Not many people know that, but actually our site was designed by my partner, which is a programmer. So you can find solution. And regarding branding, if you ask me what branding is less about design, but more about creating a personality to your product. I mean, one of the things that we did at Online Pianist is to, until today, I am as the CEO, I'm answering each and every mail, comment, or anything on Facebook, YouTube, to our fans, and I'm getting...
I'm not talking about the design. Okay, part of the branding, expressing yourself with the design. I know acquiring a designer as a co-founder, it's an answer, but it's not realistic.
No, I'm talking about branding.
Okay, so I'm talking about the design,
okay.
not what I can do by myself. Because like someone who didn't study in Bezalel or in Shenkar.
If your product design is a significant part of it, then I would say go to the best professional you can find. I mean, the idea of bootstrapping is really to do things on your own, but if 50% of your product is the design or the UX or UI, then it's not a question, right?
Then it's 10,000.
Then you need to find you need to allocate the other.
Hold it for a second. On the way. Today there are many online tools or websites that which are much. It costs really a small amount of money to produce something like, if you want a logo or you want some icons, or you are talking about that. So there are websites. Yeah, so there are websites like that. Like I think one of them is called like 99 Designs, maybe if someone knows it. Yeah. So you can you upload your request and you get a price quote from designers, and you choose which price fits you and which designs fits you. So there are really great online tools for that. But I would say, that you can really, this is really one of the things that costs you can put a lot of money on it. But I would say that user experience is much more important than the design itself, that you have a great user experience for your product, then it's much more important than, to have the coolest logo or the right colors and stuff like that. You can look at our product, and we designed it ourselves. We didn't put we didn't spend a buck on design, and users love it. I mean, it has great. If the product is good, then you don't have to put a lot of money on the design.
Okay, so my name is Shai Rodenzweig, and I have a startup in the consumer world. I have two questions. One is regarding a marketing plan and marketing research. I find out that this is very expensive, and the question is, guerrilla marketing can work in the Israeli market and then in other markets as well. First question. Second one is regarding benefits for the employees. I found out that options are very expensive because you need go to a lawyer and all this process is very expensive. What will be the most cost effective to benefit employees?
Guerrilla marketing works from experience, and I'm not talking startup. I'm talking, a bigger company. When we realized at a certain point, and we even were not at the B2C, but we realized at an early stage that what is called today guerrilla marketing is the right tool for us. We took it, we studied it, we implemented it, and it works. And it does a lot to the branding that you mentioned before, and to the awareness, and to the business itself. If there is any place for a startup, for a bootstrap, to put marketing money, I think it should be only in this direction, because all other directions are so expensive that you can't afford it. And I think that Tal mentioned that he got an article into TechCrunch. I mentioned Byte. You have to be very lucky to get this out of the blue. If you're taking a PR company in the US to put you into the analyst, into these guys, it is $10,000 a month. And you have to decide where to put the money. So I think, out of necessity, you have to use the guerrilla marketing. As for
I'll just say I totally agree. And that we got into TechCrunch not once, but like 5 times. So, but every time you go with a different story and you get them to write about you. Eventually, it's not quite as effective. But I think where it's basically you doing a lot of the legwork that you might have to pay for a PR company. It's a lot cheaper when you do it than you pay someone else to do it. Okay, options are expensive to set up a plan and do that. We basically waited until we could afford it. So we waited. We told employees will have one, but we didn't. We basically once we could afford it, we set it up and everything.
Thank you. There was a question in the back.
Yes.
Do you want to stand up?
It's not necessary. I have a question to Lior. Lior, you said that you bootstrapped twice. The first bootstrapping it failed. And what did you learn from that, and how did it help you to advance? And the other one, how it's not connected to you, not to Lior, the second one, is that how do you bootstrap in international markets? Like in markets you don't know the language, you don't speak their language, you don't have networking. And
the real story, Saturday night. We had dinner with friends in a restaurant, and I was telling a friend what I'm doing. It's someone I met a couple of times, and it turns out that he used to work for a software company that was selling to ISPs in the Far East and the Eastern European market as well, and he has amazing contacts and so on. I met him just before I came here to have a cup of coffee. He doesn't take decaf, and he opened markets like Singapore Telecom and LG Telecom and all those companies. They have contacts there. So I would never be able to get there on my own, but you can find always, I think, friends and contacts that will help you anywhere. Lawyer in other places, other markets, and so on.
I have 2 questions for Tal, but I'll be happy if any other one of you can answer it. One is regarding the funding. How did you fund yourself until you commercialized your product? And the second is, if you launched your paid product after your free product, then how much time did you let your free product run in the market until you were convinced that your customers are happy with it and you can go on to the next phase? And how did you do that? How did you convince them to just upgrade it?
So
we were in closed beta for about a year, where it was basically, all we had was free. But to be honest, about halfway through, we started getting customers contacting us and asking us for bigger plans. We gave them a few hundred page views, and they said, well, we want more. And we said, okay. And they said, well, we'd like to pay for more. So we said, okay, that's great. We don't even have a bank account. So first we have to open a bank account, then we have to tell them where to send us a check to the company. So the first payment was actually people sending us a check via the mail. So that was a good sign that someone wanted the product. That was the market actually coming to us and telling us we want to pay. And then I did a bunch of market research to look at whatever was there at the time, not really competitors, but other industries that sort of had kind of this SaaS, SMB, freemium model. And I looked to see what prices they were charging and how it was structured and where the market was. And I kind of made a bet about what the right structure would be. And I figured if it didn't work, we could keep adjusting. We actually continually changed and adjusted the pricing, did a lot of experiments over the years, as I mentioned. But that's kind of how I started, and I pretty much from the beginning people started upgrading because there was a need and because we made it attractive. So the first thing we did was actually market to our existing base of free customers. So you'd send them an email and tell them, Crypto is now, you can buy it, here's the things you get when you upgrade to a paid subscription. And at first the uptake wasn't very good. It was less than 1% of the free would upgrade to a paid plan. And over time we improved it significantly. Eventually it was more than 5% of anyone who signed up for a free plan would upgrade to a paid plan, which is very high. The industry average in freemium is between 1% and 2% is usually the conversion rate. So, but you can do a lot of experiments and figure out how to get people to upgrade. There's a lot of tricks you can do. I figured out a bunch of things that we did. We tried a lot of different things, but there were some things you figure out along the way. And it's different for every product, of course. So that was does that answer your question? Was there another part?
Yes.
Okay.
The first part. About how did you fund your
okay.
company?
So we basically we funded the company. We basically gave it a loan that we basically lent money to the business. That's how personally we did that. That's how we funded the business. That's usually how bootstrap started. You put your own money into the business. But we did it as a loan. That way, when the company eventually made money, we could pay ourselves back for the loan.
When is it a disadvantage to bootstrap? When doesn't it work?
I think first of all, there are products and type of services. For example, if you think about developing chips, for computers, it doesn't make any sense to bootstrap because you would need at least $20–40 million before you would have anything. And also there are things like enterprise software or things of that nature where it costs a lot of money to sell, not only to develop. Assuming you have some magical way you would have the product tomorrow morning, it still costs a lot of money to sell and to convince people to buy. And the sales cycle is very, very long. With telecom, for example, it may take 18 months to get any product in the door. So I think those type of ventures doesn't fit to do bootstrapping. You would have to go to VCs and get some real funding and a lot of money.
I would like to know the worst mistakes that you made while bootstrapping and that could be avoided had you had more knowledge, money, experience, whatever.
I would like to add for that the first mistake you can make is go bootstrapping. That's I'll be a troll here and I'll tell you that if you have the chance, do not choose to go bootstrap. I know that we are in a bootstrapping meeting, but you don't have to believe it, you just have to remember one little fact. Right? 99% of startups fail. So it's your decision whose money you want to lose, yours or the angels. It's actually a matter of decision of how much you have to prepare yourself. You're going to lose that money, the money that you put in, because most of them are losing. I mean, Arlen somehow succeeded in grouping here a bunch of people that succeeded in some you have to define success, but they succeeded in some way or another. But most of them fail, and the price that you pay when you lose your own money is much more than the money itself. It's really difficult. It's difficult mentally. It's difficult, you know, in factors of, in realms of, you know, what's happened with, you know, it affects a lot of people around you, your family. It's really difficult. It's not easy to lose your own money. And another mistake is, you know, taking money from friends or family. This is, you know, this is like jumping from the roof. You don't want to do that. And either way, you will not stay with when you go bootstrap or you launch a startup. You will have no friends. I mean, every time they call you, you say that you don't have time or you're busy or something else. And if you start losing their money also, then, you know, it's not a good idea.
So I was thinking, do I want to ask this question? But I think after Eyal, I have to. So it seems to me like bootstrapping and VC funding are the two extremes, but there must be a middle way which probably works better. Sometimes maybe lean startup is one of them, but from your experience, especially the ones who tried both ends, what is the best compromise? When do you bootstrap, or can you bootstrap on VC money?
Yeah, I mean, depends. If it's a really small VC, then it's almost a bootstrap. And it really, it's a matter of, you know, the startup, the opportunity, what you're trying to do. I mean, in terms of the best middle way, there's no right answer. You know, it's all a matter of each company. I mean, Clicktel, we could have probably done it in a different way, where we could have bootstrapped all the way up. We could have done it in a way where we raised millions of dollars along the way too. There's no right answer because you might get to a different place, you may not. You might get more diluted, you may not. So it really is a bunch of factors, and you make a best estimate guess based on where you are, where you're going, what your goal is. So that's the best way I can think of it. And by seeing where you're going to be in 2 or 3 years, which is really far in startup world, you see where you're going to be, and you have that really visualized, very vivid in terms of where the business is, customers, employees, everything, partners, everything around the business. You have that all visualized, and you figure it out. Then you can try to work backwards and figure out, okay, what do I need today to get there? Like, what are the things that need to happen? And that's how you map it forward, and you get there. Now, if you don't do that, then you're probably shooting all over the place. You're not really planning ahead far. I mean, you're not going to get there. Now, what will probably happen along the way, that vision might actually change. You might decide, you know what, I'm not quite that type of business, maybe more of this kind of business, but you'll always be moving in a direction that you're aware of and going towards a target that you actually have a good chance of achieving.
There are other ways. None of them are too easy, but one of the answers is that the same way that you have an idea and you hire or you're taking with you a very talented engineer to do the work with you as a partner. Sometimes someone with a capital that becomes a partner can give you the answer for that time. You still should be a lean startup, etc. If you don't go, the venture capital. But there are ways. There are today many investors in the market that were in the other side, and they want to invest and do things differently than they did. And they are out there, and they look for some startups that will be interesting enough for them to invest and mentor. And that's something that also becomes more and more in the world of having those, people that are active investors, private investors that put money in technology startups. So you have to be lucky to find one.
So you're going lean and managing, and when do you decide, or do you decide to start raising money from VCs?
First, if regarding also to your question, if you have the luxury to decide whether to go and raise money or not, then you're in a very good position. I can tell you about my company that my partners and I and my vision is to have a lifestyle business. This is something that we want and strive for, but again, there is a dilemma that, okay, but we need money in order to scale. So I can tell you what we are doing at the moment. I hope that it's the right decision. We are looking for a very specific type of investors and angels. I mean, I'm not going for VCs because as I see my company and my vision to the company, it's not the partner that I want to have. Another way is to go and look for strategic partners, even companies that you think that might buy you in the future. They might be interested in investing at the moment because you are a strategic something for them as well. I think that the world of funding is going to this direction of not the extremes, but also in the middle. It's not quite there yet, and that's why we are also in this dilemma. But as long as you have the luxury to have the time to decide, then don't go fast about it.
Is there any time in a bootstrap? There's a lot of bootstrap company that help you for 3 months. They take you to the next step. Let's say. Is there any time where you should stop looking for those? Like, of course, let's say for the extreme, if you find an investor, I'm sure you shouldn't look for any more bootstrap company. But is there any time during the work where you should just stop looking and just do other stuff because it's time and energy?
I think no. Again, it's just because I think even if you get money from VCs and they have their whole different view and philosophy about how startups should work and so on, I think you should always look for ways to get more for your company. If those are people or organizations or friends or whoever can help you with the process of the company, you should always look for them. You should never stop that.
Real marketing, how did you start, what did you do, and a little numbers also.
We chose guerrilla marketing because we didn't have too much other options on the table. I can give you one example. We launched the site, it was close to the World Cup of 2010, and I read an article that the official song of the World Cup is going to be Shakira Waka Waka. So I said that I want to be the first one to create a piano tutorial for Waka Waka and the first one to upload it to YouTube. And I did. And it brought us hundreds of thousands of users. So guerrilla marketing is all about thinking creativity. I mean, first you need to know who is your target audience, and be very, very specific about it. And to make a list, where is this target audience located, online and offline? And then literally write 5 to 10 ways, like brainstorm with your friends, partners, about how you get them, how do you get to those places free and in a creative way. This is what we did. In terms of numbers, what do you mean numbers? What do you want to know specifically?
For example, your YouTube, how much traffic it gets you?
Until today, I think it's, I haven't checked it for a while, but I think that until today it's our most popular video, with maybe close to 500,000 views. And I would say that it took us to the next level in terms of traffic, this video. I mean, it also proved to us that this is the way to go. Since then, we have a very organized work on YouTube. This is one of our great sources. One tip in this regard is that don't rely on one traffic source. try to spread it as much as you can, because you have a lot of surprises on the way. I can tell you that a 12 years old person from a child from Norway got control over our YouTube channel and erased all videos one day. And it took us some time to rebuild it, but it's a good thing that we didn't rely only on YouTube. So this is my 2 cent tip.
So when you get an investment from a VC, you get some board members, either you want them or not, but what about a board of advisors? Can you get those in the beginning for free, or do you have to offer them some kind of a starter, some kind of a deal? How does it work?
I think that, again, everyone, you can get advisors, experts in any field. And like someone mentioned before, you can promise something like stock options. You don't even have to have a plan in place, at the same time. You can have it, in the future. But I think you'll find that most people, if you have a startup in a certain area, the experts in that field would love to help you. They gain a lot by helping startups. They get some publicity from that and so on. And really, most of the people that I met in that respect, they really like to help you. The people are willing to do a lot, for someone who starts something, especially, if you're bootstrapping, if you're doing it all by yourself. They value that. They see you as a risk taker, someone, that they didn't do it, so, they want to help you, when you do it. So.
This is a question specifically for Tal, but if anybody else wants to chime in, please. We discussed briefly getting a patent set up and protecting your idea so that nobody comes and steals it. So when you have an idea that's in early stage development, we're talking, just a concept, maybe a draft of the business plan, and just you, your mother, and your fish knows about this idea. Who would be proper to tell, and how do you protect yourself?
So if you have some this technological innovation and you think you invented something, then you should probably do a provisional patent application in the USPTO. Costs very little money, I mean, relatively, $100, $200 I think. It's cheap, and you get the date, and then you have a year to file for full patent. So that's on the patent side. But I believe in sharing your idea, and that's the only way it will evolve and grow. Typically, your first idea is not good. You think it's good, but it's not good, because as soon as you talk to potential customers or other people that you trust, you'll get a lot of feedback, and you'll figure out that, well, maybe it's not quite right. And usually what happens, especially with early stage ideas, is that they evolve. At the end of the day, you have to go based on what you believe is right. And there are a lot of stories of entrepreneurs where the environment told them, no, this ain't gonna work, but they stuck to it and they were able to be successful. But you have to kind of decide for yourself, like how much you believe in an idea, how much you want to talk about it. I find that I really like the process of brainstorming and figuring out how to take an idea that might be still at the early stage and refining it until you have something that's really good and really strong. And when I talk about refining it, it's not just, it's refining the product, how you sell the product, how you market it, all of that, kind of doing a cycle, working around that until you have something that's really crystal clear, that's new, unique, that makes something different in the marketplace, that changes an industry. It's always, that to me is really fun to build that. So I really encourage everyone here to not keep the idea to yourself, because if you do, then it will not evolve and not grow, and likely nothing will happen with it. I encourage you to talk to people and have a conversation and increase it. It's unlikely anyone will steal your idea, really. It's every person, trust me, what you're excited on is unlikely someone else will be excited on the same thing. I wouldn't worry about that.
In what instances would you use, here it is. In what instances would you use a non-disclosure agreement and, something simple that you wouldn't even, go to serious lawyers for, just to put it together? Is it valuable? Is it worth anything?
Okay. So we use NDAs when we talk to partners or potential companies, and that's how we work. But I think in the early stages when you're starting off, it's not really realistic to start having people sign NDAs. There's some people who won't sign NDAs also.
some angel investors are well known for that. But it's at the stage, the early stage, I wouldn't necessarily bother with that. But others might have a different opinion. I think as you mature and grow as a business, I guess you have more to lose. You haven't really built capital or anything like that. I think at this stage, you kind of want to get as many opinions as you can, and also get partners and other people to help you out.
I think there's two different things. One is the idea that you have, for example, for an application or product, and the other thing is the technology or innovation. From legal standpoint, again, this is legal stuff. If you don't sign an NDA with a partner or someone, and you present the technology, not the application or the product, and that becomes a public knowledge. If they can prove in an email that you sent it to them before you filed for a provisional application or something like that, you cannot do it later. So you have to be very careful about the innovation itself, the patent and so forth, the technology. Very careful, and when you come to partners, VCs will never sign an NDA. But then at the same time, when you first come to see them or investors, you don't have to talk about the full technology and the patents and so on. And I think that from my experience with partners, and I work with very big companies, antivirus companies, McAfee, Kaspersky, and so on. Every time we talk about technology, NDA in place, they even respect that, when you ask for an NDA.
One great way to get word out when you're bootstrapping and you can't pay for PR is blogging or commenting on other blogs. Do any of you have experience with blogging, and does it work?
Yeah, sure. We have a blog. It's part of our, guerrilla marketing. So when we started the business, one of the first things we did was start a blog. And when we had stories we wanted to announce, we would give an exclusivity to certain outlets like TechCrunch and others. And they would, and we would tell them, look, this is embargoed until this date. By the way, TechCrunch doesn't honor embargoes. We found out the hard way. But it's but basically most outlets will honor it, and they will launch. They're more likely to talk about you and write about you if they know they're going to be telling the story first. So you tell them this is the date, this is the time we're going to embargo it until, and you can launch then. And then you make sure your blog story comes out a little bit later, but that way they feel they got the scoop. And that helps you get a lot more word out. But it's very important to have that blog where people can keep coming, and it's a great way to tell a story, convert people, use it as a lead gen. There's a lot of good things you can do with a blog.
You have to be very careful not to be too much self-centric, and you have to put the reader in the center and not yourself. Readers will not come back to the blog if you are promoting yourself in the blog. But if you provide interesting stories, even if they are not yours, and they are colorful and they are, they make something, give value to the reader, they will come back, and then over the time you can use your messages as well. But be very careful about the balance.
So, are there maybe free or low expense tools that you can get, like large numbers in terms of customer segments? So if you're a B2C business and you want to target like stay-at-home moms in the US and you want to identify maybe statistics or something like that, do you know any tools that you can extract this data and not pay like thousands of dollars for statistics companies and such?
To be honest, I didn't use any tool, and I'm not very. I don't like to work with tools when I do my work, to be honest, unless it's analytics. I think that if you know exactly who is your target audience, you can simply brainstorm where you can find them. You have niche blogs and theme blogs that you talked about specific type of end user, specific blogs for moms, forums, anything. I mean, you don't need tools for that, because knowing your target audience is something that you need to, it's a knowledge that you must have, and it's one of your greatest powers as a founder. In my opinion, especially in a bootstrap company.
But you invest like, you take like a decision and go like 2 or 1 month in one direction that you decide, because you have like you have one product that can fit several target customers, and you don't always know who are the potential, and you try and test stuff.
Okay.
So just trying to find a way to evaluate, maybe to minimize the risk before you choose, because it's not money you invest your time, and it's more valuable.
Time is valuable, but all those sources that I was referring you to are completely free. And you can say that, okay, for the next few weeks or month, I'm targeting this specific audience in these specific places. And measuring the results is also something that you must do, especially at the beginning. I wouldn't go for tools in determining your target audience and who is the best customer for your product. I think that it's something that you need to learn by yourself, by testing and with experience.
Yes, I can also add that you have the trivial ones. You have Facebook, and you have Google, and you have you can set your own. You can analyze the right keywords you want how to be found in Google, and if you know how to do it yourself. If not, then take some professional services that know how to do it. You invest a few hundreds of dollars and you get it, and see if your product, see if it catches, if it's viral. If it's a good product, you will not have to put in too much effort. You can also find, as Nimrod said, you can also find blogs or websites that approach your audience, and insert your banner into them and see how much conversion it gets. It doesn't have to cost you too much.
Partnership is also a very good way to do so. I mean, if your product gives some kind of a value to a specific website audience, you can come to this website owner and tell him, listen, I'll give you my product for free. Just post a little banner on special offer promotion for your audience only, and see. I mean, creativity can take you very, very far. This is my belief.
So thank you very much for a very interesting panel. I think we all learned a lot today. And we will revisit this subject again, since there is so much more to be said. Thanks everyone, and there is the food and networking waiting outside.